If everyone could take their seats, please. I call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 201, today Tuesday, January 11th, 2011. Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey?
Here.
Mr. Charleston?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mrs. Lubeck? Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have the honor of recognizing our students. Do we want to start with Mr. Carr?
Good evening, everyone. This is an exciting night for us each and every year as we have the opportunity to recognize our students for their many different accomplishments throughout the first semester. That being said, we have several groups here, and I'm going to bring up our guidance counselors, Carol Wyrostic and Larissa Zalisco. They're going to introduce for you the Illinois State Scholars, a tremendous group of senior students that we have well represented here this evening. So if you guys would come on up and do your presentation, I'd appreciate it.
That's perfect. Yes. Every year, this is one of our most pleasant tasks. Illinois State Scholar is a designation that is granted by the Illinois Student Assistance Commission to seniors who have excelled in their studies throughout high school. It's based on a combination of rank in class and ACT composite scores from junior year and is awarded to approximately the top 10% of students throughout the state of Illinois. And every year that I've been here, we've exceeded that 10% number, and this year is no exception. In a class our size, we would typically expect about 14 or 15 Illinois State Scholars, and we have a group of 19 State Scholars this year, all very well-qualified students. So we're going to tell you a little bit about each one of the students and their plans for the future. As I call your name, please stand. Remain at your place until we complete your introduction, and then you're going to come up, and Mrs. Charlton has a certificate for you that has a board resolution honoring you, and we also have a certificate for you from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. Okay, our first State Scholar this evening is Allison Berg. Allison is the daughter of Arnie and Lois Berg of Westmont. She plans to attend either the University of Wisconsin or the University of Michigan next year, and has long-time interests in political science and actually has done quite a lot to investigate those interests throughout the course of the time that she's been in high school. She's been very involved in activities around here, and really sometimes I think there are three of her because she seems to be everywhere all the time. So please step forward, Allison, and congratulations. Perfect. Okay. Good. Okay, our second scholar this evening is Holly Brown. Holly is the daughter of Imelda Brown of Clarendon Hills, and Holly plans to attend either the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana or Loyola University here in Chicago. And Holly has a lot of interest. She hasn't exactly decided what she's going to do, but she certainly has a creative flair and interest and talent at working on the computer, so her major may fall in one of those areas or maybe another area of her interest as she goes forward into next year. Holly has already been awarded the Eastern Illinois University Minority Leadership Scholarship from her participation in an academy there last summer, and has participated in a number of activities here at Westmont High School throughout the course of her time with us. So please step forward, Holly, and congratulations. Our third scholar this evening is James Begley. And James is the son of Dale and Linda Begley of Westmont, who have had other children that have graduated from Westmont High School previously. James plans to attend either the University of Chicago next year or the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. He has had long-standing interests in the sciences, and particularly in physics, and is really looking to look into the careers that may be possible to him in research. And I have no doubt that he has the academic capabilities to be successful in that endeavor. He has also been named a National Merit Scholar Commended Student, which is also quite a prestigious honor, and has been awarded a Merit Scholarship at Purdue University as well. So step forward, James, and congratulations. Scott Dvorak is our next scholar. Scott is the son of Kathy and Dave Dvorak of Westmont. He plans to attend the University of Michigan next year at Ann Arbor. He's looking into the possibility of majoring in chemical engineering. He also has been named a National Merit Scholar Commended Student, again, quite a prestigious honor for any student. He definitely plans to run track and cross country at University of Michigan, and definitely has had some contact with the coach there. And we know from his accomplishments in high school that this is definitely a realistic possibility for him. He's also been involved in a wide variety of activities in high school besides sports, National Honor Society, Snowball, and Best Buddies as well. So congratulations to you, Scott. Please step forward. Rachel Elliott could not be with us this evening, but we definitely want to recognize her for her accomplishment as well, and we'll award her certificates to her when she returns to school tomorrow. So congratulations to Rachel. Jana Flint is our next scholar. Jana is the daughter of James and Janet Flint of Westmont. She plans to attend either Columbia College Hollywood or the University of Tampa next year. And for those of you that didn't know that Columbia College had a campus in Hollywood, they do, and Jana is actually going to visit them a little bit later this week. I think we're all a little bit jealous looking out the window at the weather. Jana, for those of you that know her well, you already know that she has had a long-standing interest in filmmaking, and she definitely has her sights on a goal as a career as a film director at some point. And for those of you also that know Jana, you know how determined she is, so we also know what a realistic possibility this may be for her. As she looks ahead, University of Tampa has also awarded her a presidential scholarship already, and she's also been involved in a variety of clubs here at school, including NHS, golf, which you're going to hear more about in a minute, and World Language Club. So congratulations, Jana. Please step forward. Gabe Kaysen-Bessemer is our next scholar. Gabe is the son of Lisa and Tyson Boyer of Downers Grove. He plans to attend either the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana next year or possibly the University of California at Berkeley, which is located in San Francisco. He has also had a long-standing interest in the sciences, particularly in biology and in animal sciences, and also has a great interest in travel and in research, and he has participated in a an internship at Brookfield Zoo over the course of the time that he has been in high school. His dream career is to work for National Geographic, and that's certainly a realistic possibility for him as well. Congratulations to Gabe, and please step forward. Ryan Krajcik unfortunately has the flu today and was also unable to join us this evening, but we definitely wanted to recognize him on his accomplishment as an Illinois State Scholar as well. So congratulations to Ryan. Heather Kruger is our next scholar. Heather is the daughter of Jennifer Liacy of Westmont. She plans to attend Brigham Young University at their Idaho campus next year, which is in Rexburg, Idaho. Major in psychology with the goal of eventually becoming a therapist. And again, those of you that know Heather have seen her up here on the stage many, many times before in our musical productions previously, and I'm sure that this year will be no exception to that. So congratulations, Heather, and please step forward. Bob Kuzlik is our next scholar. Bob is the son of Mark and Janice Kuzlik of Westmont. He plans to attend either Marquette University in Milwaukee next year or Southern Illinois University in Carbondale with the goal of going into criminology and law enforcement studies. He'd like to become a police officer in the future. He right now is also under consideration and is a finalist in the Presidential Scholarship for Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. He also was an Eagle Scout. For those of you that know about the designation of Eagle Scout, that's also quite prestigious, and it takes a lot of work to achieve that. He's been very dedicated in his pursuit of that since he's been with us. He's participated in Scholastic Bowl, Rotary Interact, and Business Professionals of America. Congratulations, Bob. Please step forward. Megan Laram. Megan is the daughter of Eileen and Donald Laram of Westmont. She plans to attend either Illinois State University or Purdue University next year. She may major in either criminal justice and law enforcement or special education. He hasn't decided yet, and definitely is going to look into those possibilities as she makes her transition to college. Megan has also been very busy and active here at school during the time that she's been with us, and has participated in Snowball, in Rotary Interact, National Honor Society, in the musical. And again, you're going to be hearing more about her golf participation in just a couple of minutes. So congratulations, Megan. Please step forward. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Larissa Zalisco, who is going to introduce the remainder of our scholars and tell you a little bit more about the students that are her counselees.
Thank you. I would also like to reiterate Mrs. Wyrostik's sentiments and express how proud I am of all of the students that I have worked with over the last 4 years. And I think this is a great honor for me to present these certificates to all of you. So I would like to start with my first student, Hannah Ostrowski. Unfortunately, she was unable to be here today, but I would still like to recognize her at this time. So congratulations to Hannah. Our next student is Benjamin Poncer. Benjamin is the son of Mark and Nancy of Westmont, and he plans to continue his education at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He plans to major in business and eventually wants to work as an accountant. He's actually taken quite a few of Ms. Durbin's business classes here at Westmont High School, so I think he has a solid foundation for continuing in that direction. At Westmont High School, Benjamin has been a member of the golf team, which you'll hear a little bit more about, as well as the National Honor Society. So congratulations, Ben. Congratulations. Our next student, our next scholar, is Margaret Scheidel. Margaret is the daughter of Jeff and Mary Scheidel of Westmont, and she is planning to attend the University of Illinois at Chicago next fall. Her intended major is criminal justice with a minor in biology, and eventually Margaret wants to work for the DuPage County Crime Lab. She definitely has a very strong interest in that, and I wish her the best of luck. At Westmont High School, Margaret has participated in our web club, Scholastic Bowl, and in our National Honor Society. Congratulations, Margaret. Our next scholar is Jacob Slinkman. Congratulations. Jacob is the son of David and Janine Slinkman of Westmont, and he will be attending the College of DuPage in the fall. He is planning to major in microbiology as he continues in his post-secondary studies. And Jacob also plans to participate in the honors program there at the College of DuPage. Congratulations, Jacob. Our next scholar is Sarah Sternard. Sarah is the daughter of Don and Jill Sternard of Clarendon Hills, and she plans to attend the University of Illinois at Chicago in the fall. She was awarded a full 4-year volleyball scholarship to UIC, and we're very proud of her for that. Although Sarah is still undecided about her major, she is considering pursuing a career possibly in the medical field. Here at Westmont High School, Sarah has also been involved in the basketball team, snowball, as well as National Honor Society. Congratulations, Sarah. Congratulations. Our next scholar is Warren Thomas. Warren is the son of Bruce and Diane Thomas of Westmont, and he is planning to attend the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in the fall. He plans on majoring in marketing and minoring in advertising. His future career plans include owning an advertising firm and freelance advertising on the side with a variety of other companies. Here at Westmont High School, Warren has participated in snowball, in yearbook, as well as student council. Congratulations, Warren. Congratulations. Our next scholar is Catherine Zapinski. Catherine is the daughter of Robert and Susan Zapinski of Westmont, and she has been accepted to Illinois State University, Western Michigan University, as well as University of Dayton in Ohio. While Catherine is still considering all of these schools, she's also exploring the possibility of playing some level of college basketball. I'm sure more to come on that. She is planning to pursue a major in secondary education, specifically in the area of physical education, and she has a very strong interest in coaching at the high school level. Here at Westmont High School, Catherine has been involved in the golf team, the basketball team, snowball, as well as National Honor Society. Congratulations, Catherine. Our next scholar is Jennifer Zapinski. Jennifer, also the daughter of Robert and Susan Zapinski of Westmont, has been accepted to the University of Illinois at Chicago, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, as well as Marquette University. While she's still considering attending one of these potential schools, Jennifer plans to major in physical therapy. At Westmont High School, Jennifer has been involved in the golf team, snowball, and the National Honor Society. Congratulations. We would once again like to congratulate all of our 19 Illinois State Scholars for this very great achievement. So we'd like to give them one more big round of applause. At this time, if the scholars could remain quickly on stage, we're going to do a quick picture.
If they can get them all in that picture.
I know. Let me get it done.
We'll take a better picture. After they're done, we'll meet them out in front. Okay. Hey, scholars, after we're done with this, the rest of our presentations, if we can meet you out and back, there's going to be a break in between this part of the meeting and the next one. We can get a good team photo. You guys look sharp, and want to make sure we take care of that. So if you guys could have a seat, congratulations. You represent us well. So thank you very much. Thanks as well to Ms. Salisco and Mrs. Wyrostic for really giving us just a brief synopsis of their experience in high school. Well, every year we've recognized the Illinois State Scholars, and it's a truly impressive group. But it seems each year we also have the opportunity to recognize at least one, and oftentimes more than one, Illinois student who's recognized by the IMEA, Illinois Music Educator Association. We do have a student this year to be recognized, and I'm going to ask Mr. Bufus, who's our band director, to come up here and give us the specifics on that situation. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to recognize one of our sophomore instrumental music students, Angelica Rendek. IMEA, I suppose we should applaud her now. The All-State Conference has long been known throughout the country as a place to recognize soloists, instrumentalists, and vocalists who perform on their instrument at a very high level and audition at the regional level, and then if they're lucky enough and have the best scores, they go on and are recognized to perform at the all-state level. With the inclusion of the new standards for music education, we started to incorporate composition into much of what we do at the All-State Conference. And we submitted this year 4 compositions, 2 of which were by Angelica, and her piano composition, her solo work, garnered 2nd place in the state of Illinois. And I'm told that the piano entries outnumbered any other entry category, and also that this was the largest year of composition entries in the state of Illinois. So it's a significant accomplishment for Angelica to be going down and being recognized and representing our school system. So, Angelica.
If you want to hear the composition, you can. Not right now. But if you go to our the band website through the school website, the band link, you can hear the composition. It's really impressive. It's kind of the soundtrack in my office. I'll click on that and get some things done. And so I've listened to it several times. I'd like to turn our attention to some of our athletic accomplishments from the fall. We had a very successful fall athletic season, and we have a couple of our coaches here who are going to recognize their students who participated in state competition. So I'm going to ask First, Coach Wolf from our cross-country team to come up here. Steve, if you could come up. Not to put him on the spot or embarrass him at all, but we were recently informed that he was also selected as the Coach of the Year in the state of Illinois for cross-country. So, there's an additional reason for recognition. I'm going to turn it over to Coach Wolf.
Thank you very much. I'll probably not hear the end of it from Mr. Delisle back there, but it was quite an honor to receive that recognition this past weekend at our at the clinic that we attended. But I really couldn't have done it without the athletes and their hard work. And so tonight we're here to recognize their achievements. So could I have our boys and girls cross-country members that are here present tonight to come up on stage with me, please, so I can recognize you. This is going to be a very memorable season for me as I look back, because not only did our boys team qualify for the state meet, but so did the girls. And you know, looking back, I've been here a number of years, and it was, I think we counted, it was like 16 years since the last girls team had qualified for the state meet. But the boys were, you know, they've been going down there year after year, and so I'd like to start by recognizing our senior boys. They're no strangers to the stage. We only have about 3 of them here tonight, but Scott Dvorak is our first one. Scott's been a member of our distance program for all 4 years. He's run track and cross country. He's excelled in just about every year. I was making mention of his coat sitting down here. You want to hold that up there, Mr. Carr? I said, Scott, you don't have any room left on that jacket to put anything else on there. And as you heard previously, he plans on continuing his running career in college. So he's been the driving force behind this team for all 4 years. That's Scott Dvorak. Another senior is Morris Jaspers. Morris has also been a member of our program both in track and cross country for all 4 years. And he was very instrumental in our success that we've had the past couple of years. You know, he really came into his own, especially last year, and then really stepped it up nicely for us this year. Our third senior who's with us tonight is Patrick Robertson. And Patrick has also been with us for all 4 years and has done a nice job for us. These 3 men, along with the other 3 seniors, are certainly going to be sorely missed. I've really enjoyed coaching them, and I guess I get 1 more season with them this spring, and then it's out the door. So congratulations on your achievements, and thank you. Our girls cross-country team is a little underrepresented here tonight because I only have the 2 sophomores here. Chloe Marshinsky. This was really a breakout year for Chloe. She joined cross-country last year as a freshman, but her season was kind of cut short due to injury, and so she really only competed for half the season. But she did a lot of running over the summer, coming off of an excellent track season from her freshman year, and then started the cross-country season this year and just did an outstanding job for us. Filled right into that varsity role and just really continued to excel throughout the season. Her accomplishments include all conference honors. She was a regional medalist, a sectional medalist, and a state qualifier. So we're looking for big things in the future from Chloe Marshinsky. Our other sophomore with us tonight is Maureen Bailey. And Maureen also did an outstanding job for us. She had to battle a lot of injuries, not only last year, but this year as well. But I think if she learned anything from last year, that was that, you can battle through those injuries and see it through to the end of the season and still make a good season of it. And she did the same thing this year, and this year it paid off for her. Last year we missed going to state with the girls team by only 1 point, and so that was kind of the rally cry to return to state this year, and Maureen and Chloe are a big part of that. Team-wise, they won the conference and the regional and the sectional. This was our first sectional championship for the girls, as I said, in 16 years, and so that was quite thrilling. But then to go downstate and finish 4th in the state was icing on the cake. So thanks to these two and the other young ladies that are not present here tonight, we had a great year. So thank you very much.
It's been a real pleasure for me to watch the boys cross country team for the last, I think it's been 8 years. They've had its presence at the state meet, and to have the girls team go down as well this year is a real joy to watch. We've also had some consistent participation in the girls state golf meet, and now I'm going to ask Mr. Mark Delisle, who's our girls coach, to come up here and recognize his athletes.
I did not win Coach of the Year, and I am not in the Hall of Fame, so I apologize, but I still have time. I would like to recognize our golf team, so if you girls can come up. And I don't make it a prerequisite to be an Illinois State Scholar, but 5 of the 6 are. 5, and all of the ones that are eligible are. So she's a junior, so next year. We had the opportunity to make it downstate, which was great. The girls golfed excellent, and we ended up being 8th in state. And but besides that, besides golfing great, they really represented Westmont very well. Their behavior, the way they carried themselves and acted was excellent. And that's what I'm more proud of than anything else. So they were 8th in state. And let me introduce everybody. We have Caitlin Doherty. Caitlin is a 3-year golfer. She's the only junior. Everybody else is seniors. Then we have Jenny Zapinski, who is a 4-year golfer. Jenny was part of the team that went downstate in her freshman year. Then we have Katie Zapinski. We were lucky enough to be able to golf in between 2 injuries. Katie ended up the highest we've ever had, the highest placement we ever had, which I believe was 19th in state. Was that correct, Katie? 19th in state. And just did a great job, consistent, 86, 86 both days, so did a great job. Then we have Megan Laram, who is a 4-year golfer. Megan golfed with us 4 years and did an excellent job. And we have Jana Flint, who's also a 4-year golfer. She was also part of our downstate team when she was a freshman. So thank you very much. Oh, the award. Did you give all the awards? Okay. Oh, you know, Allison Berg, who was just up here as a state scholar, she actually had to run to a snowball meeting that she was a leader for. So all of these girls do many, many things, and I was just glad to have them long enough for golf. So thank you very much.
We have one more recognition for the high school before I turn things over to Mrs. Molby. Our football coach, Mark Orzula, can't be here this evening. Both Mr. Orzula and Mr. Renner, who's our Dean of Students and Athletic Director, are in Sandwich right now. There's a multi-team wrestling meet in Sandwich. And so they're, and Mr. Orzula is our head wrestling coach, so he can't be here. But Mark, if I could ask you to come up here. Mr. Orzula has had the good fortune of having Mark McKenzie in our football program. This is Mark McKenzie. Let's put our hands together for him. Mark's a tremendous athlete, and he's participating in basketball at this time. He's been a baseball contributor as well. And as we got into the season, Mark's been a fine football player throughout his high school experience. And as we got towards the end of the season, Mr. Orzula came to me, and he had recognized and he had brought Mark's name forward to the state commission and recommended that he be recognized as an all-state, all-academic football player. Mark's also a tremendous student. He does a fine job in his classes. He was academic all-conference as well as all-conference. He's a fine sportsman, and it was a real honor for me to be able to put out on the signboard recognizing a kid for all-state, all-academic, because it really speaks to both his excellence on the field of play, but in all of his other pursuits as well. So I'm really proud, as Mr. Orzula is, to recognize you here in front of your peers and your community as a all-state, all-academic football player. So congratulations. Now I'd like to turn the stage over to Mrs. Smolby.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. I'd like to ask Kathy Volpe and Rosemary Blessman to join me. Imagine yourself a veteran teacher with many years of accomplished teaching under your belt. You know your craft very well, and for many, many years you've successfully been teaching students to learn to read, and you're successfully teaching teachers to become better reading teachers. At this time in your life, it could be that the word retirement may have been said around your dinner table. What would you do? Where would your focus be? Would you look for a way to take your career to the next level? Would you look for ways to advance student learning and improve teaching and make schools better? Well, that is just what Banning School teachers Kathy Volpe and Rosemary Blessman did. After 15 months process of rigorous study, expert evaluation, self-assessment, and peer review, they joined a very select group of teachers and earned National Board Certification and Advanced Teaching Credential. At Manning School, Kathy Volpe serves as reading coach and reading specialist, and Rosemary Blessman also teaches in our Reading Achievement Program and our at-risk preschool program for START. I have the distinct privilege of working with them, and I know firsthand how much of themselves they put into doing great things for children every day, and have seen this going on for many years. By achieving National Board Certification, they join the nation's most accomplished teachers who help students develop the necessary skills to thrive in school, in the workplace, and in the 21st century global economy. Please join me and the Board of Education and their families by congratulating them on this wonderful and great accomplishment.
Thank you all. We are going to now proceed with the regular portion of our board meeting, and you are all certainly welcome to stay if you would like, or
Take this out.
we'll just take a minute. So at this point, we'd have public comments. I have one card here. Joan Powerley, if you'd like to step up. You come right up here to the podium, please. And if you could, again, please just state your name.
My name is Joan Powers. I live on Revere Avenue, just over the fence from the athletic field. You have seen my face and heard my voice before, I'm sure you know. I came to comment on the proposed change of the position of the scoreboard from the north end of the field to right over the fence from my neighbor's house and quite close to mine. Before I say anything about that, though, I would like to say that for the last 34 years I've been paying something like 80 to 85% of my real estate taxes to the support of District 201, and I'm glad I came early tonight to see that, at least for the last 4 years, some of it's been very well spent. That being said, I want to say that we're not happy about this. We don't think it's a neighborly thing to do, to move a scoreboard that has been at the north end of the field for probably close to 40 years. It was there when we moved in, down right over our fence. Mr. Carr was very kind today to find out for me why they feel it is useless at where it is now. And it has mostly to do, as I understand it, with the direction in which the kids run when they're on the track. It appears that they have to be running counterclockwise, and that they need at the end of their races to be able to look up and see what their time is. The obvious solution seems to be have them run in the other direction so they can look at the scoreboard at the north end of the field. But the explanation for why that's impossible that I was offered is that they have some arrows painted on the track, and that supposedly the kids have to look at arrows to know which way to run. That there are also markers which tell them when in a relay race they need to be getting ready to hand the baton to the next runner. All of that makes sense to me. What I don't understand is the track was put in relatively recently, and I wonder why the arrows were not at that time pointed in the direction to use the scoreboard in the position that it's in. I know you're going to do it because that's our history with the school. No matter what we think about it, you're going to do it, but I just wanted to register our disappointment that you couldn't have been a little more neighborly. We found out about this by means of a letter attached to our doorknobs Friday evening, which meant nothing. We couldn't do any research about this until yesterday. So, you know, I just don't understand why it has to be put this close to homes. I have no quarrel at all with the fact that the scoreboard needs replacing and that the kids should have it. I have no problem with any of that. But it just seems like a very unfriendly thing to do. I understand that repainting would cost $100,000. That was the figure that was given to me today. That's a little hard to swallow. I know it's a different kind of a surface and needs special paint, but that just seems so hard to swallow. So anyway, I hope you'll consider it, and I just really want to be on record as saying that the people along Revere Avenue will not be pleased about this. Thanks.
Out of curiosity, is the concern the light? what is it that's sort of...
Well, basically, it's an eyesore. I understand that this one is going to be bigger than the one that is being replaced. None of that athletic equipment out there is aesthetically pleasing, and to have it so close to our homes is just another irritation. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time? Okay, then the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any discussions on that? Okay, then I move for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations, and 2, approval of student tour. Roll call, please, Mr. McMahon.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
On the agenda, it talked about the review and award of the scoreboard bid. However, at this time, this item has been tabled for further review until the January 25th, 2011 board meeting. So that will be on the next agenda. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, but I would like to take 1 minute, as long as, if it's okay with you, as long as we're doing the superintendent's report. I would like to take a moment to say thank you to all of our staff, community members, and village leaders for taking part in Saturday's forum concerning the position of the permanent superintendent. I was personally thrilled to see so many people take time out of their busy weekend to come and take part in this very important process. The board will carefully review the IASB's final report and take into account the comments and concerns of our community before making any decisions. So to keep everyone updated on the next step in this process, Ms. Dawn Miller of the IASB will be reporting to the board at our next meeting on January 25th. At that time, she will present the findings of the survey, as well as sharing all of the comments from the survey, the public forum, and the focus group meetings. After that, the board will discuss our next step towards hiring our permanent superintendent. Again, thank you for all of your input and participation in this process. So now if we can have the superintendent's report.
Sure. And before I touch on the 2 items that you have in your board book, just to, as I guess an explanation for the tabling of the scoreboard bid at this time, our business manager, Kim Anderson, and Director of Building and Grounds, Mike Mayoros, they're still reviewing the bids to make sure that what they're viewing is comparable equipment before they come forward with a recommendation to the board. So that's why we decided to table that, to give them an opportunity. They're still seeking some information from the vendors so that when they come forward to the board, they'll be able to answer your questions. I have 2 items in the superintendent's report. The first is the Noble Network school visit. We had another group of teachers, as well as Mrs. Hancock and Mrs. Charlton as well, join the group to visit one of their charter schools. And again, the purpose being there are some of the things that they're doing which would be described as best practices. That's what we want to be about. And I think what this allows us to do, we read about these best practices, the theory, and this allows us to see them actually implemented. And I think definitely there are some ideas and concepts that can be replicated in our own school district, which will ultimately lead to greater student achievement, and that's our ultimate goal. The next step in the process now, we've had roughly about 36 people now who have gone on visits, and so we're going to bring as many of these people who are available together on January 20th at 3:30 p.m. We're still finalizing location, and I've been working with Mr. Carr and Mr. Fiala with their buildings to see where's the best venue for that. But to come in and kind of process some of the strengths, weaknesses of what they saw, we've seen 3 different schools now, and then start talking about some of those next steps and how we can indoctrinate more of our staff in some of the concepts, and then how we can move forward. I don't know if Marie or Shannon, if you'd like to share anything at this time with...
I thank you, Ms. Bartos, and the rest of and Mr. Carey for organizing that. I found it a very worthwhile field trip, if you can if we can say that. It was wonderful to go and visit these schools and to see the strides that they are making with students. And again, these students in these schools are not handpicked. They apply, and I was very impressed with the high academic and discipline standards that they adhere to, and that the students not only embrace, but they live by. And then that, in turn, obviously there's many, many, many components of the schools, but the academic outcome then is very positive. So I will say that I was impressed with the uniforms. I don't know that any of the students would be exactly thrilled with that, but it was a very good visit, very good use of our time. So thank you for organizing that and inviting as many of us to go. I look forward to the meetings. Shannon?
As far as my experience, thank you. Also, it was definitely a unique opportunity to be able to go into a charter school environment, which a lot of people, there's a lot of mystery and misperception and misconceptions about what that is. I was equally impressed with the fact that they're taking kids out of the community. It's not handpicked, it's not selective enrollment. So it's really the same thing that all of our schools are facing in terms of diversity and ability and all the discipline and behavior. I thought that what probably impressed me the most was the sort of the consistency and the singleness of purpose. They're not confused about what they're doing there. They all know exactly why they're there, excuse me, what they're trying to accomplish. They're very consistent in how they communicate that message from students all the way up to administrators, the security people in the hall. Everyone has a very singleness of purpose, and it's all about bringing those kids along, helping them grow into functioning, successful adults that can move on to college and be successful in life. And it was very impressive to see the singleness of purpose in this very wide variety of ages and people and educators and, you know, the janitor and the gym teacher, and everybody has the same message. And it's all about doing the best job they can do for each student.
Two things I took also was I had an opportunity to talk to a couple of young ladies in the that are in the school, and I just asked them, are they proud of their school? And they beamed and they said yes. Now this is a school with very high standards, and they said they were very proud to be at that school. So I look forward to us as a board and administrative team and staff to incorporate whatever we can into our program. And so it was very nice, very nice.
The other thing that was unique about our experience was it wasn't a scripted visit. We went in, they did a presentation for us, and I think quite to many of our surprise, they said, okay, go wherever you want in the school. Go into any classroom. Oh no, we're not going to be with you. Just go. We'll meet back in this room in an hour or whatever the time frame was. So it wasn't a carefully carved and scripted presentation where we only saw what they wanted us to see. We were completely free to go anywhere we wanted to go, talk to anybody that we wanted to talk to, go in and out of classrooms. I mean, there's definitely nothing being hidden and nothing careful about how they present the experience.
Thank you. And as we, after the January 20th meeting, I'll update the board on the outcome of that meeting and kind of what those next steps as we see our district moving through this process. The other item that I have for you this evening. Yep.
I just was wondering, can any of the board members attend that January 20th meeting? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. And then the only other item I have is with regards to strategic planning. And over the break, I was contacted by Linda Hansen. That's our facilitator we've been working with. And Linda and I have had a couple conversations since then. She was hoping that we would be a little bit further along in the process. And I think kind of what added to our frustration a little bit is after our last board meeting, we had talked about moving forward with the survey, and after that, I was contacted that could it be tweaked a little bit more, and can we make a couple more changes? And so she definitely was hoping that we'd be a little bit further in the process, and she's starting now to take on a couple other school districts. She's more than willing to continue with us, or she said at this point in time, if the district decided that maybe Either we can do it with our own internal resources, move forward with our strategic planning process, or if we want to make the commitment to working with Linda, she's more than willing to work with us. At this point in time, there would be we're not financially obligated in any way. So it's not like we'd have to pay any cost at this time, and any work that's been generated to date would still be the district's, and we'd still be able to utilize it. So I'm just looking for a little direction from the board if we want to continue working with Linda, or if we want to, continue. I think it's important to continue through the process, strategic planning process, but just do it internally versus going outside.
How far off are we from the timeline that we originally set up?
I think at this point, she was hoping that we'd have the survey results back already and what our subcommittees would be at work. And so, we're kind of, the goal line was to be, the end of April, beginning of May, to have our strategic plan in place. And because of how long it's taken to get that survey out, we may be a little bit delayed from that.
I didn't recall that we were supposed to have the survey done already at this point, were we? I would like to see the original timeline. Can you?
Sure, I can get that to you, sure.
That was.
Sure.
Do you feel that we could handle this in-house if?
I think we can. I know with my previous district, I facilitated the strategic planning process, so, I think it's something that we can do. I think internally we have the, the individuals who can facilitate the process. So it's whether or not the comfort level of the board.
And as you had mentioned, we own the survey.
Right,
so we could go forward with sending the survey out and getting that piece moving forward.
Correct. I talked to Nancy Battaglia, our Director of Technology. She said there would be no problem with, we would use SurveyMonkey to do it electronically to get it out, and then Nancy could assist with processing the information then.
Well, when we originally discussed doing the strategic plan, I recall that a couple of the board members had originally suggested that we do this internally, and most of the board members had at that time said that they felt it would be best to use an outside, consultant to facilitate the process. They felt that having an outside facilitator would keep it objective and all that. So I'm kind of thinking that we should have a discussion about this.
Well, I guess the question would be, do you want to move forward with Linda's services, or do you want to try and replace Linda's services with?
Well, that's why I kind of need to see the original timeline, because I really don't think that we're that far off of the timeline.
Mr. Carey, has the survey gone out then, as yet?
No, at this time we haven't
Hasn't
sent
been
out the
released.
survey because,
And
if
see,
we
that's
want.
the other thing. I thought at our last meeting that we had given direction to have the survey go out.
Well, in the meantime, both Mr. Carey and I got an email from Linda Hansen saying that she wanted to withdraw. So at that time, we kind of talked about it, and we thought, well, we're not going to put the survey out until we bring this to the board to discuss because of a couple of different factors of her time and the fact that she was hoping to be further along. So that was why it was decided to bring it to the board table tonight to discuss it. And then if we are ready to move, if we decide to move forward, we can now get that survey out. But because of what had happened from the last board meeting, otherwise it would have probably been sent out by Linda. So
Yeah,
that's
and
why
I'm
it's...
kind of thinking that maybe the board should have known that immediately, maybe because I thought that the survey was out already.
Well, what happened, Kathy, was after our board meeting, I was prepared to contact Linda Hansen, but instead I got a subsequent email. And so rather than contacting Linda to say, go ahead and let's push out the survey, the email was, we still have, we're almost ready. We still want to tweak a little bit. Here's some other ideas. And the response back was, you know,
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Who wanted the tweaks? I thought at the last meeting that the survey was ready to go.
A board member asked for more tweaks to the
Somebody
survey.
sent an email? Was that?
Yes.
Somebody sent an email asking for more.
Someone sent an email to Linda.
Or feedback.
after the board meeting.
After the board meeting.
After the board
Right,
meeting?
right. So it wasn't voiced at the board meeting, but rather after the board meeting.
So then, after that, Linda Hansen sent an email to both Mr. Carey and I saying basically this, that she wanted to withdraw as a facilitator because she was hoping.
And it was appropriate for a board member to contact Linda Hansen at that point to make any more tweaks on the survey, since the board had at the meeting decided that the survey was done and ready to go out. I just want to say that.
I would agree. But
it is what it is, so now we have to make a decision.
So when that letter came, or email came to the two of us, I talked to Kevin, and then he'd been over the holidays trying to discuss this with Linda, and then then by the time they talked, then Kevin, I think, you had it in our board update on Friday, but then it became that we needed to talk about it at the board table. So that's why it's being brought here.
And Linda is willing to continue with the district, but she just wants to be assured that, yes, we're indeed committed to the process, and, you know, that we'll continue moving forward with it.
So does anybody want to?
Well, if Linda's committed and just needed some reassurance, I'm fine with moving forward with her. If she absolutely feels she's going to, schedule is going to be too hectic and that she doesn't have the time on her end, then we need to look at another alternative. But if she's committed and ready to go, I mean, I'm ready to move forward with getting the survey out there and following through with the next steps.
I think it's important that we revisit the timeline, make sure that not only that we agree, or not only that we understand the timeline and are okay with it, but that Linda is as well. So, I mean, I think it feels to me like the step to take is to, revisit the timeline, identify it, articulate it, as it were, and then make sure that we're on board and that she's on board, and if either one has any reservations at that point, then we can revisit her participation in that process or not.
Can we do that outside of a board meeting, or is that something that we have to, we'll get a copy of that in the near future, and then is there a way to, I'm just trying to figure out a way not to continue to stall this out into another board meeting or another group setting. Is there a way around that? If there's not, I understand that, but if there's a way around that.
Can we, that brings up a good point. The survey, since we own it, can we send that out and then maybe share the timeline just with the board at the next update, and then we can talk about it on January 25th?
I think
Does that sound?
I think it's prudent to go ahead and get the survey out and start advertising to the community for them to do that portion, because whether or not we continue with the strategic plan internally or have a consultant facilitate it, the survey needs to be done, and so we shouldn't waste any more time and not have that part of the process move forward. And then I think we can go ahead and have Kevin send the timeline to us so that we can take a look and see where we are at this point in regard to that timeline, if we're that far behind with it. And then when we meet next, decide whether or not we're going to continue with a consultant or do it internally. But at least the survey part of the process will be moving forward.
Do we agree on that?
Well, the next steps after the survey are really
setting up the
board
committees.
isn't as intricate to that.
Well,
those next immediate steps,
part-
correct?
Well, basically, the purpose of the survey is the survey should help the board to identify key areas to focus on. and that ultimately forms your subcommittee. So the information would be shared with the board and would have an opportunity to review it, and then, reach consensus on if those are the areas that we want to pursue.
So would we aggregate that data internally, or would we, because my understanding was that Dr. Hansen was going to be aggregating that data and sharing it with us.
Right, but if we decide that at the next meeting, I mean, how long are we going to let the survey be out there to complete?
Yeah, see, that's, I don't know what the timeline is at this point. I have no idea.
Well, here we are, is January 11th. If our next meeting is January 25th, the survey can be out at least until 2 or 3 weeks. That's going to bring us to the end of January anyhow.
Sure.
So by that time, we'll decide whether or not we're going to continue with Dr. Hansen, and whether or not she's going to aggregate the data, or whether that's going to be done internally. Does that make sense?
Right, and that would be my recommendation. Go ahead and let's push out the survey, and then at the 25th board meeting, the board can discuss it, and whether it's us taking a look at the data or Dr. Hansen, we can work that piece out. But I think rather than waiting any longer, let's go ahead and push that out.
Kevin, I'd also like to find out when you're talking with her over the next couple of weeks, or as we start marching towards that decision. I'm a little nervous that at the first sign of delay or adversity that she sent an email and backed out. So I would really want to regain some confidence about, kind of what Dan was saying, the timeline, and just her commitment to, partnering with us on this effort, because it feels like a little bit of a drastic thing at the very first juncture to say, okay, I'm out.
But to piggyback that, does she need assurances from us that if, it's I'm sure unusual to have the board make a decision and then have that show up on her doorstep. So is there some sort of internal assurances we need to extend to her that we could try to avoid that in the future? I'm not sure quite how to word that, but I think it's a two-way street. She was uncomfortable with the way that happened. I think we're uncomfortable that it happened.
And I think, if you recall, part of the process as well that she recommended was having a core group, kind of be who communicates with Dr. Hansen. I think, in addition to pushing out the survey, forming that core group. And then I think if I contact Dr. Hansen and said, yes, district is committed to the process, then, and she gives us her assurances that she's committed as well, then I think we can move forward and then put some of those pieces in place so that, the communication is flowing from that, subcommittee versus from the board.
So can we then, I think Diane had a good point. Can we all agree that at this point we are satisfied with the survey as it stands, and that
I was.
Yeah, we already agreed.
At the last meeting.
Well,
we did that, so.
We can do it again.
We can
Only
say
if
that
you
again.
promise to send it out.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we'll get it out.
Okay. So, does that sound like we'll move forward with the survey and
Yes.
do that? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Okay, are you done?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda are board reports. Are there any board reports at this time?
Actually, I did just have something that I wanted to report. It was actually a very positive item for the high school. The high school partnered with the Village of Westmont with our coat drive, and in addition to collecting coats, they also collected hats, scarves, clothes, and non-perishable food items. And I think, I forgot to bring the numbers with me, but I think the coats, they collected around 70, between 60 and 70, but in all, they collected over 1,200 items. So we delivered them to Fish Food Pantry in Downers Grove on December 19th. There were several students and one of the staff members that came along, and it was really an awesome experience for the students. And Fish was just absolutely delighted with everything that we brought. We packed up my van very full of everything, so it was great. And I just want to thank the students and the staff for doing that. And they had a contest to see who could collect the most, and I just want to announce that the boys seniors won the contest. So thank you so much.
Any other board reports? No? Okay. Then the next item on the agenda, budget reduction planning.
Just to kind of update the board where we're at in the process, and as you know, we work with PMA, and one piece that we're waiting on, Kim and I are meeting with Mike Francis on Friday. He's going to have the kind of the first go at the financial projections for the district, and then he's going to be at the January 25th meeting to present that information to the board. And that's when, you know, Kim and I will be confident then of assigning some dollar values to some of the things that we're looking at. But basically, to update you, last week we did have a meeting for all of our employees to attend to talk to them a little bit about what we're looking at, approximately $1 million deficit budget for next year. And then, again, some of what we're looking at, what we're trying to do, and our philosophy going forward. We're kind of looking at this as an opportunity. We had an admin meeting this morning to focus on this question. And we're looking at this as an opportunity to not only looking at budget reduction, but really, truly how we do things and the systems we have in place. And if they're meeting the needs of students, are there some things that we can be doing better? And I know that Dan heard the same philosophy, I guess, from a school district, and I can't remember the school district, but basically it's not just all about reducing costs, but also reinvesting in the district as well. So we're looking at that as well. So it's not just about making cuts, but also are there things that we can do differently and possibly add some programs that we currently do not have. And so it's kind of looking at that as a whole versus just the cutting process. The recommendation from Grant Sarr, I had a kind of informal conversation with him. Next week we'll have formal meetings. But basically he said, you know, to take a look at what they proposed last year, the WTA. And so we are looking at their recommendations from last year and seeing if any of the cost-saving measures that were not implemented, if any of those things make sense this year as well, and what those new costs are. Again, we're looking at 4 retirements, 3 elementary, 1 at the junior high, and ideally, if we can absorb that FTE right out of the box, that's a $400,000 savings to the district. So we are taking a look at our programming. The high school has a small incoming freshman class, and so they're looking at sectioning and class sizes, and they believe that there will be some savings in FTE. Steve doesn't want to put a hard number on it at this point because they're just going down that process. But that's one of the things that you'll be looking at is what we're seeing as a savings in FTE. And again, that's one way we're not impacting the services we're providing our students, but rather that's just, and you would be looking at that even without looking at budget reduction, because naturally if numbers change, you have to take a look at how you're staffing. The junior high as well is looking at their day and the structure and some of the services that they're providing to students, and they believe that they can also absorb that 1.0 FTE, but also possibly come forward with another reduction to decrease staffing. Miller and Manning, that's going to be, you know, the tricky piece because you're looking at 3 elementary teachers, and so how do you absorb that without impacting students? And again, we may be able to absorb that FTE in other areas. It may just not solely be elementary, but both Miller and Manning, the principals there are looking at things that they're doing in terms of how the schools are structured. As you know, grade centers, that's been a possibility, and we are looking at that, and as the board asked, not only from a cost savings, but is it better for kids? That's not the only configuration that has been discussed. There's some other opportunities there as well, and even Kelly Abbas, Miller School Principal, has offered some ways to possibly restructure her school without going to a grade center and still maybe reducing staffing that way as well. So those are all the things that we're looking at right now. As soon as we can, again, Kim and I were kind of looking at this morning, do we really want to assign a dollar value to some of these things? After we talk to Mike, we'll be more comfortable. And then we are also looking in other areas. One of the questions that came from the teachers, are you looking at contractual services, some of the outside individuals we use to assist with staff development and some of those things. And yes, we are. We're looking at all those things. But again, it's striking that balance between cost savings, but also there are things that we're trying to do as a school district, goals that we're trying to achieve. And so it's striking that balance where can we cut costs, but at the same time maintain what we're currently doing and improve upon and build upon what we're currently doing. Next week, I am going to be setting up meetings with our leadership from our bargaining units to talk to them a little bit about some of the ideas we have, to enlist ideas from them as well, from their areas. And then hopefully when we get to the 25th, we'll be able to start taking a look at some numbers and some cost savings for the board.
Okay, question. You have talked about $1 million deficit. Is this something that, and this might be answered when you meet with our financial people, is this something that we have to do all at one time, or can we structure that out over the course of time, or what is it that?
I think the biggest thing is once we get the model set, then we can run some different scenarios and we can drop in some of the items that our administrative team and is reviewing, and some of the input that we have from our unions and things like that, and give the board maybe a couple of different options. If we do this is where it will bring us at this point in time. If we do this, a lot of things hinder on, we don't have a contract yet, so we don't even really know what our true salary costs are for this year. So it makes it difficult for us to even project next year. And so we're going to have to make a lot of assumptions, and everyone's going to have to understand that there's certain assumptions, and based on this set of assumptions and what we know today, this is what it looks like. And as we move forward and things become clarified, then we can rerun scenarios to give us a little bit more accurate sense of where we're at.
Thank you.
Just to make an observation, to the extent, though, that, and I referenced it at the last board meeting, to the extent that we don't have the, courage is the only word that comes to mind, to the extent that we don't have the courage to do what we need to do to balance the budget this year or this coming year, it doesn't go away. The deficit gets bigger the next year. So until you actually address it, it just continues to hang over you like what is the old the Greek god Damocles sword. Or the king. It hangs over you forever until you actually fix it. So we either have to have the courage to fix it next year via cuts, or we have to have a much more aggressive conversation with the community about our revenue streams, because they are clearly they don't support what we spend right now. They just don't support what we spend right now.
The deficit that's listed here, is that with or without the state aid that's owed to us? Do we know? I mean, that'll be part of the projections, I'm sure, and that's kind of up in the air right now with the state budget, too.
We received all of last year's, and so it's just running off of it's assuming that we're going to get all of our revenues.
But at the prorated amount.
Okay.
So it could be worse.
It could be, yes, it definitely could be worse. I think I haven't done the financials yet for the month of December, but I think the state probably owes us about $500,000 of current year revenues right now. So one of the things also that we've done, and I've said it's kind of my mantra for the year, and I know our administrative team is going to get tired of hearing of it, but, you know, we're looking at what we're doing and asking everyone to review what we're doing, and then why are we doing it? Why are we doing it the way we're doing it? And, you know, to look for efficiencies and to understand, is that the best utilization of our resources? Is that the best delivery model? And so, if you know, that's a mindset that we can have with all of our staff members as we move forward, that helps us to look at things differently and maybe, again, achieve some efficiencies through that process as well.
Are we also going to have like a contingency plan in case something happens with the state funding and we don't receive?
Well, we can do that. Again, we can do a couple different scenario models and determine, you know, and it's really, you know, what's your appetite for the type of cuts that need to be made?
Well, I'm just wondering, I mean, I think that we should have a discussion for, you know, kind of like maybe an A, B, and C, where these are the cuts that'll get us to this point, but if we find out that we're not going to get, you know, this funding, and we're going to have to make more cuts, then we better have those in mind so that we're not scrambling at the last minute saying, okay, what are we going to do when this funding doesn't come through, if it happens?
And I think that's what Kim was alluding to, that is the plan, is to give the board some different options and what gets you to basically different dollar amounts. And so some of those, you know, we can build in a scenario if this doesn't come through, this is what it means in terms of deficit and what it means to get to that point.
Okay, I was just, I thought that she was just giving us different scenarios to kind of get us out to different, you know, dollar amounts to different years, you know, like trying to get us further along.
Well, and I think that, you know, that's what Dan alluded to. If you know, Marie's question, do you do 1 million in one fell swoop? Well, absent of that, then that's exactly what the projections do. It keeps bumping out how long you can survive in your fund balances. So you're just extending that until either you know, there's only two ways really to balance the budget. It's either through cutting expenditures or increasing revenue. And unfortunately, currently in the state of Illinois, if you're looking to increase revenues, it requires a tax rate increase, because I think we've been waiting for the state to kind of solve the problem, and I don't think that's the solution. And so basically, it's if you don't go to $1 million, then you're pushing out that timeline until ultimately you make that decision. Well, are we going to make the hard cuts to get to a balanced budget, or are we going to try to increase revenue? But in addition to that, we can work in, you know, scenarios such as you're suggesting if the state doesn't come through. You know, right now they're saying all the right things, that they will. You know, the goal is to pay everything that they owe school districts. This year it happened December for the previous fiscal year. So it all depends on, you know, the state of Illinois, but we can build that into the scenarios.
To the extent that we don't balance the budget, we just delay the day of reckoning. You know, and our low point balances continue to deteriorate. I think this year our low point balances will probably dip below a couple $1 million. So, you know, at a certain point in the very, you know, not this school year, perhaps not next school year, but at a certain point, if we don't actually do something to balance the budget, we will be in a position where we must borrow money to make payments. That, in my view, is just a catastrophic sort of downward spiral that leads to nowhere good. And so delaying a day of reckoning on that basis is an invitation to disaster.
So
meeting,
we'll have a financial
we'll
model, so to speak, as to with bringing forth a couple different scenarios?
We can start, assigning dollar values to different, scenarios. Yes, it won't be the full. We won't be able to roll out the full plan, but at least we can start. The administrative team will have a little bit of time to look at some things, and we'll be seeking input, and they'll start painting a picture for people.
Okay. Any questions?
Beyond the next meeting, what is the point in time when we get to the full picture?
If you remember, the original timeline was our second board meeting in February. I'd like to come forward to the board with the plan, so to speak, for board approval. That does give us a little bit of wiggle room. Again, the goal is to be able to tell our employees what their status is in March, because nobody wants to, be twisting in the wind, so to speak, trying to find out what that ultimately means. And so, that's why if we can stick to a timeline where we, make some decisions by that second board meeting in February.
That February meeting will include community involvement?
Yes, we have 2 forums scheduled. I believe the first one's February 3rd, so there will be 2 opportunities for community input.
Anything else? Any other comments? Okay. Then, is that it that you have? Okay. Okay, then moving along. The next item on the agenda is education, approval of Westmont High School course offerings. Did you want to come up here, Mr. Carr? Please?
As we've done in years past, we have put together the course selection book, course selection guide, with the hope and the intent that it's going to be a very, very important document for the next 60 days or so as we go through the course selection process with our students and their families, in cooperation with our guidance department and our teachers, so that the kids can make, our students can make the best and most informed decisions on their behalf as they plan going forward. This is also an important process, as we've just alluded to, as we start considering what the what our staffing is going to look like, so we can meet those requests and make the best decisions as far as how we maximize our FTE in that regard. So this is a huge document that you have in front of you. In years past, that document presented in this way. This is last year's course selection book. Very functional, worked well for us. Those of you who had students come through the high school before, I hope it was a helpful guide and helped you to have some important conversations as you sent your kids into the guidance counts or guidance appointments, or if you joined your student in the guidance appointments. This year is also, we usually have this discussion in November and December so that we can then process the book. This year we've had a little bit of a different consideration because the state has undergone a course coding project so that similar courses would have a similar code number, so that as students moved around the state, they would have similar courses and like experiences. To whatever degree we're able to do that. So that kind of took us off our timeline. That was a very considerable project. Our guidance department and our department coordinators were instrumental in making that come to fruition. And this year, as we were doing that, we also decided to reformat the book. This is our single model. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the advantages of this year's course selection guide. We've reformatted some of the way that it's presented. We've also taken into consideration some of the suggested course descriptions through the course coding project. In this size compared to this size, remember what I said in the beginning, this is a useful document for about 60 days. After that, it's most useful as a digital reference, if you have it online and it's useful. Going from this size to this size, at this point, saves us about I think Carla told me it's going to save us maybe $1,000. So it's going to save us some money, about 30%. So we save about 30%, still get the same benefit from it. But I'd just like to say, if you've had a chance to take a look at it, it's in this page size, but everything is just shrunk down to this size. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions about this year's course selection book.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
The last page is the TCD, Technology Center page.
Okay.
There isn't really much information there. How does a student go about really getting involved in that, and how do they get any kind of advertising about what that is and how it might benefit them?
Throughout the year, in the fall, we've had several field trips for those kids who are freshmen, sophomores, and juniors considering the possibility of attending TCD. And those students who see that as a possible course selection choice for them in the next year, we've already taken them to TCD. They've seen the campus. They understand what the programs are as far as the various offerings, whether it might be in automotive or in the fire science or cosmetology. So they've been out there and had a chance to take a look at that. TCD also has a fairly accessible website that our guidance counselors will walk them through.
And are there more technology-oriented offerings through TCD, or are they more along the lines of the examples you gave, automotive, cosmetology?
No, their offerings are multifaceted. They have computer technology, CAD, design, filmmaking. It's a very impressive place. TCD really meets the needs of a lot of kids, and it's really a tremendous opportunity for kids to experience not only that, I hear the cliche of hands-on learning, which is all true, and it really is, affirms that. But the kids who go there while they are in the CT program, Career and Technical Education, at least from the Westmont experience and from many of the schools in DuPage County, those students are college-bound students who are just getting their pre-college experience in a different way.
I'm just trying to determine if for students that are not oriented towards automotive or cosmetology, that may be oriented more towards the higher level technology, are they really aware of what's available? I mean, I think I heard you say that, students who have an interest can go on the tour, but I'm unclear as to how well the offerings and the breadth of the offerings at TCD are really made known to the entire student body, and it's not through here. Right. So that's the purpose of me asking is, what else are we doing to educate people as to what the options are?
I think I understand your question. The guidance counselors do is they have their annual appointments with all students. That's one of the topics of discussion that they would have. It's a lot like all the many of the opportunities in that we have and that you might find in other places. Kids come in with an initial interest, but so for some kids it's just not a good fit simply because it does take 4 hours out of their school day. So there are some limitations if a student has, or requirements and or specific, single offering classes, there are going to be some limitations too. But I do think we at Westmont High School take it very seriously, making this a possibility for our kids. So that I don't think any kid, and every kid knows kids who go to TCD. They have kids in their neighborhood. They'll have kids who they see in the morning as they're going to class. They're heading out because the bus leaves here at 8 o'clock. They know what's that about? And the kids who come back from TCD speak very highly of it. So I think we have great word-of-mouth experiences as well. And they're adding courses all the time in physical science, and we have some students who are exploring that possibility this next year. So it's an exciting place, and I think our kids know of it. I'm a board member, so if I sound like you guys might feel about it, I'm very involved with it and very invested in it. So
I have had some questions or comments from community members, sort of random, suggesting that maybe it wasn't as well known what the full breadth of the offerings are. Okay. So
yeah, that certainly, if that's
for what it's worth.
No, absolutely. If that's one person's perception, that's someone's reality. So we need to take that into consideration.
All of the students get a personal invitation from TCD. We give them a list, and then that list works operates and really they do a great job with their brochure.
The TCD principal comes out, and he was out the other day scheduling our meeting. So our kids, I think, are thoroughly aware, not 100% maybe, but thoroughly aware of what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to comment, Mr. Carr, that I really like all the information under the guidance services, the suggestions for college, the ACT information, the suggested grade level planning and prerequisites, all that information. I know that, I've seen it evolve over the 8 years that I've been sitting here, and I just think this gets better and better every year. So I think that you guys are doing a great job.
I appreciate your saying that. I'm a parent of a 9th grader now at Downers South, and when you're using it on the other end, you just realize, we've always taken it very seriously, and you realize as you take from that what they don't do that we do, because I'm fishing through their book, and it doesn't make sense. So I've been pleased with their product up to this time. I'm really pleased with how the reformatting is going to make it, I think, more accessible, and the language that we've used in consideration of the Common Core, or the course coding project is going to be helpful to us. So
I just think it's more user friendly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think so too.
My only question is, by virtue of approving this, and we're obviously offering all these courses. Obviously, enrollment may or may not facilitate the courses actually occurring. My question is only, do we in any way limit what we can or can't do by virtue of the sectioning thing and the budget questions that you guys are going to be addressing with staff and looking at what we're doing next year by offering the full breadth of what's in here?
Right, and I think student choice typically drives the process, and we'll allow students to select courses, and then you see where the numbers fall. And in some cases, and I think typically this is how high school is operated. If you don't have the numbers to warrant running the course, then you have to go back to those students and tell them. And the same thing, once you see how many students are selecting courses, and then you start to do your sectioning, that ultimately is.
So when do they start making selections, and when does it? When do we sort of tentatively start to put together the master schedule and all that kind of good stuff?
We're hoping by middle of February, the third week in February, we should have a fairly decent idea of. That's when we'll pretty much we should end the experience.
Which is around the time that we're looking at our final recommendations.
We're very aware of the timeline for that.
Okay.
So we'll have a pretty decent idea going into the end of February what section sizes look like.
Good.
So what you're looking for from us tonight is approval of this?
Yes. So what that'll allow us to do is then get it processed for use in the course selection process that's going to happen shortly. So.
I just have one question about the Illinois Virtual School and how many students are actually taking part or in some of those classes. And it just seems with so many colleges and universities offering online courses, it's kind of a good first opportunity, I guess, for students to kind of get used to that format. I don't know what it would be like to take one online. It seems
great,
very non-traditional to me, of course, but
Nancy, you know exactly how many kids each year we might have 10 to 15 kids each semester.
You know, we talk about being small and all of that. It just seems like this is a great opportunity to really broaden the exposure that the students can have to fields that there's just no way you would be able to offer as a course here. So I think it's a very positive thing to promote, and you know, maybe at someday down the road it'll actually be a requirement, because like I said, it seems like it's a trend in universities and colleges. So
it's a learning environment that clearly more and more is going to be where our kids are going to have an experience of doing that. You know, they're just when we started here, that was the intent. There were simply courses we didn't offer. We had kids taking oceanography. We don't have an ocean. It was perfect. But it's also perfect if there are kids who want to take advanced placement courses that we don't offer. We do try to place kids effectively, though. We don't want students taking that environment if it's not going to be positive for them, because it is not a learning environment for everyone at this point. And it certainly hasn't, and this is not just our experience, it doesn't function well for many kids who are in a credit recovery mode, simply because much of it is very self-guided. And at the same time, you don't have that personal touch with the person next to you to ask the question. You're interfacing in a different way. But it has been effective for us. And, you know, some years there's more call for it than others. You know.
Any other questions?
I just want more. Is there a minimum enrollment for a class to, you know, be a class?
Are you talking about virtual high school or for any of our courses?
Any of our classes.
Well, I'd say last year we discussed the number 20. And it wasn't a 100% hard number, but it was pretty close to 20. You know, some courses that were in a sequence where there might be a 1, a 2, or a 3, and they had 18, so that we could continue with the sequence, we might have run that. But we talked about 20 as a guiding number. That's would be how I would consider it again.
Any other questions? Okay, then, hearing no other questions, I move the approval of the Westmont High School course selection offerings for the 2011-2012 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then it is approved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing some of you in course selection.
Okay, are there any other public comments at this time? No? Okay, then, just to reiterate the future meetings, tomorrow night there is a discipline committee meeting at 6:30 at Westmont High School here. And then the next school board meeting is January 25th at 7 o'clock at the Westmont Village Hall. And, do you have anything else at this time? Then the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Thank you, and there will not be a vote after the closed session. Thank you.